Okay, so welcome to this live session on this Wednesday afternoon. If you haven't been in touch with my resources, my name is Sonja Small here, originally from Cape Town, South Africa, but have been living in the Netherlands for more than 30 years, have married an amazing Dutch guy, and my big passion, besides making my own art, is helping artists. I was a struggling artist for many years, not knowing how to connect my art with an art audience, and just have been through processes these last years of training, learning, excuse me, and learning how to actually promote, how to sell, how to connect art with an art audience. How do you get your art out there? So that's something that I am really passionate about, because it's not just luck or crossing your fingers and hoping. It's being a good artist. It's really learning and honing your skills, but it's also learning about communication, and that's a system. And how do you connect that, what you're passionate about, with an art audience? There are all kinds of tools and there's systems that you can use to do that. And it's not magic. It's not some higher science. You don't have to have an MBA in business. It's something that anyone can learn. And especially in these days with the internet, there is so much possible, which makes it quite overwhelming as well, because there's so much possible. And we think, well, where do I get started? How do I, write my social profiles? How do I communicate in this online space that's so overcrowded with so many people there, so many artists that are all calling for attention? How do you make a difference? And that's what I teach in my courses. That's what I teach my students in one-on-one coaching sessions, is really finding your authentic voice, finding a way that you are comfortable with, so it doesn't sound salesy or really forced, something that that you feel comfortable with, finding those channels that you can enjoy using. Because if you're enjoying communication, it really will rub off and people will be attracted to things that you're doing. It's just finding what is unique to you, what is your communication preference, and how can you use those images and words to communicate. So that is my passion, and I share that on different platforms, my websites, my courses, and in sessions like this in the community. Today, we're going to be talking about those 5 powerful hacks that you can use to become more articulate, so to become more clear when you're talking and writing about your art. Because let's face it, just putting an image out there is just not enough. It's powerful. Images are powerful, but adding the right words, I already see them like the bookends. They hold everything together. They keep everything together so people understand, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And words add and amplify, using the right words. Using the wrong words can confuse, can distract, can totally dilute your message. But using the right words can amplify, can strengthen, and can really create focus. And you're the director of that. So it's so good to be aware that you're making more than just your art. You are building an art business. And that's what I teach my students continually. It's something that you need to get into that frame of mind. Your art is not going to sell itself. Your art is not just going to get out there. You have to communicate about your art. You need to see your art as an art business, something that you want to create a revenue stream. Unless you are in that position that you're doing it as your hobby, or you're doing it just because you're passionate about creativity, and that's totally fine. But a lot of you that are in this community see your art as a business and want to create revenue streams. And the more clear you are in your communication, the more effective people will start hearing and engaging with your communication, the easier it's going to be to build that bridge towards sales. So that's why this session is important, because it has that so much potential if you do it correctly. So your guys are also running a business and you are into promoting and selling your art. That's why you are here. You're wanting to learn. This is such an important part of your whole business structure. You're promoting and selling. And what is the core of promoting and selling your art? It all has to do with communication. Not communication. If you're not communicating, you're not active online, or you're not active, in your community, in how you are communicating about your work, is also communication. That's bad communication. When you're not communicating, you're also communicating. You're communicating, you're not communicating. The message is not getting out there. Effective promoting and selling of your art all has to do with clear, consistent, coherent communication. And we already looked at images in the last session, and now in this session we're going to be looking at words. Words are something that we use in our culture. It's a powerful way of communication. That's how we've learned to write the alphabet, to talk. It's all part of how I communicate with another person, with you, is using words. And choosing the right words will make the job a lot easier. We can communicate on different levels. We have images, of course, as an artist, that's so important because you are a visual artist, what images you're using. We have words that communicate experiences, that communicate an emotion, that communicates your story, that communicates, just amplifies what your art is about, who you are as a person, why it matters, and why are you doing what you're doing. And it speaks to the imagination. People don't remember facts. People remember feelings, how you made them feel. And words play such an important role in adding to how people feel about art, about certain, it could be music, it could be any kinds of artistic expression, storytelling, all so important in communication. We're going to be looking at those two different kinds of words. Communication, it's the spoken and it's the written word. Those are both communication channels, ways that you'll be communicating on the different areas. Let's just look at spoken words, presentations. You have moments maybe at an opening. You have a moment that you're going to be sharing, whether it's with your neighbor or with the mayor of your city or with a journalist about your art. You need to find those right words. Maybe you have been in a study situation or in a class and the evaluations. There's moments where assessments happen. You need to talk about your art. What was your process? Why did you do this? What happened here? Or why is this a representation of the theme or the core message that you're trying to communicate? So words, you need them at your evaluation, assessment moments. Maybe you love teaching. Words are important. How can you bring your students from point A to point B in the most straight line without all kinds of detours and confusion? You have to learn how to communicate with your words. You're building relationships. That's how we relate to one another, is with the spoken word. So maybe you have a supplier, you have people visiting your studio, you are going to visit, you're collaborating with other people, you have a group project. How are you communicating with those spoken words? Video, podcasts, radio, TV interviews, all these moments that you'll have to use spoken words. And what words are you going to be using? The tip, you can practice. It's not just something, I just need to feel it and I share it. You can become a far better communicator when you practice. And I've got some practical exercises in the session for you to go through and practice. An artist interview, you just put things into practice situations. How would you communicate if you were to be interviewed, for example, on a radio interview, or a journalist from your local newspaper comes and you need to talk about your art? You can show, but you can also talk. What are you going to be saying? Then we have the Michael Rich. He's an artist. I'm missing a slide, I see. I want to just touch on the written word, that we're going to find all different ways that you have used written words. Go and look online. Michael Rich is a contemporary artist from the US. Go and look at his website. There's lots of communication about the press, artist statements, bio, resume. How do you describe your art? How does an artist, what words they use to describe their art? So there's the website, there's the social channels, there's the blogs, there's the written articles, there's the contact with the press. There's so many places where the written word is used. Just think of posting. You're writing a post, social post, or you're sending an email, all written words. Go and have a look, be inquisitive and learn from other artists. Or when you go to an exhibition, the curator has made A lovely summary, if it's well written, it can be very inspiring. It can set the tone for an exhibition. Take photos of those words. Those are all words. Become a word detective. Become interested in words. That's the first thing I want to really bring home, is that words matter. And become inquisitive about words and start collecting words that you really like or that you enjoy, that inspire you, or that sort of connect with the things that you are doing. And read about art and artists, and then underline words that really inspire you, blogs or books, or there's all kinds of ways that you can interact with words about art. How is art being described? What words are being used? Why do you like certain words? Why don't other words resonate with you? And collect them in your sketchbook as you're painting, as you're drawing, as you're making your art, your sculptures, whatever you're doing. Write down words, because words, listen to what words are coming up in your own mind, in your imagination. Write them down in your notebook, write them down in your sketchbook, and get into the habit of writing things down, or write it at the back of your paintings. So maybe you are working on a canvas or a piece of paper, just write it down. Jot down emotive words that are coming to mind, so that you don't have to, when you have your opening or when you're finished the collection or you want to put it online, you want to write something about it, you really have to think like, okay, what's this painting about, or what's this art piece about? You really have practiced. So collect those words. And great to listen to what people are saying. Maybe you have an opening or you're posting online. What are people saying about your work? This really touches this. I really feel that. I really experience this. And if you're not hearing people saying things, ask people, ask your collectors, ask friends to describe your art. What words are they using to describe your art? And then take notes. And I coach many artists. And very often when it comes to the writing part, they draw a blank. There's like the writer's block, just like, the shutters go closed and they can't think of words to write about their art. Then I would really advise you to start talking about your art. Maybe you have a memo on your phone. Speak out loud. What is the theme that you're working on? What is it? How does it resonate with you? Or how does it make you feel? Or what stories can you think of? And just talk it out, because there's no such thing as talker's block. It's a writer's block, because we think, oh, now I need to put it on paper, so it's really serious, and I'm writing about art, so that has to be really artistic and articulate. You're not writing for a Pulitzer Prize. You're writing from your heart. Use words that you would use. Don't become so over-articulated that people think, what is he or she trying to say? So write like you're talking. So that really is a tip, to get it out of your system, get it out loud, make a video, audio, and then write down those words and get into a flow and a habit. And it takes practice. The more you're writing, maybe you want to blog, but you think, I don't know what to write about, or find it difficult. Keep it short and sweet, get those small little wins that you can get confidence, and just keep at it. You can really practice and train yourself. We're going to be looking at 5 areas where words matter in this session. Before we get to those 5 areas, I really want to just welcome the people that joined in a bit later. And I'm really curious, who enjoys writing? Just give me a yes. And maybe you think, oh, it's such a pain, Sonia. I really don't like writing. But of course, you know that it's important and you want to learn. That's why you're here. Then you give me a no. So if you enjoy writing, give me a yes. And if you don't, but you want to learn, then give me a no. And then I can check it out in the comment area. So please use the comment area. This is where you can use your words to ask questions or engage. Janie says, yes. Good to have you here, Jane. Wonderful. Leonie, all the way from South Africa. Hello. Good to have you in the session. So, liking those words, not liking those words. Hopefully after the session, you'll be more inspired, and that it will be less of a mountain to climb, but more something that really is so close to yourself. Anya says, yes, but not confident. Oh, that can be such a battle sometimes to find a voice, your tone of voice, how you can communicate. with your with the words that you are using. It's not easy, but as I already said, Anya too, I want to encourage you, just keep at it. Write like you're talking, write it down and practice every day. Maybe take 20 minutes or 15 minutes just writing. It doesn't have to make sense, but write. Or as you start your painting, as you start your artwork, write down or journal, get into the habit of writing. Major says, no, difficult to find the right words. Yes, for you too. For all of us, it's practicing, getting into the flow, and then you start seeing and you start collecting. You have your own database of words that really describe you more, that's unique and personal, and that you can draw from that database, and you can use them when you have things prepared, and you can get help. We'll talk about that further in the session, that there are people that love words and they're really good at words, and you can ask for their advice, or maybe prepare something and then hire a content writer, hire someone that can look through your work and just refine and talk it through and get to the core of the message of the things that you're trying to say. Hi, Imka and Gudrun. Good to have you here. All the way from Berlin, Gudrun. Yes, struggling to express what I really want to say, both of you. Well, then we're all in the right place. Hopefully this session will inspire you. The 5 areas that we're going to be looking at where words really matter, and remember, it's all about communication. That's at the core, whether you're promoting, selling, sharing, inspiring, educating, it's all about communication. And the clearer you do that, the more effective it'll be. The 5 areas that we're going to be looking at is a tagline. I'm going to look at social profiles, very important. How to use those characters to really make a difference. Using emails, very important, also in your communication stream. A pitch, how do you pitch yourself verbally? So that's the spoken word. And then blogging. How can you write effective blog posts? We're going to be starting with a tagline. You think, well, what's a tagline? A tagline is a carefully crafted, so very intentional words. It's usually a few words, 2 to 5 words, that encapsulate your core business. Remember, you are a business, you are building a brand, you're building a look and feel around the things that you're doing, and you're putting that in your communication. And everything, wherever you're communicating on the different channels, whether it's in person or in social, your website, they all need to encapsulate your core, the core of your business, the core of who you are. And usually you are the core of your business because you're the artist making the art, or maybe you have more employers that what is the core of your mission? Why are you doing what you're doing? And that tagline sort of encapsulates that. So it's a few words. It can be used in your logo. So maybe you're using your name as your business. So, and with maybe the word art in it. What few words can you add to introduce people or to really make clear what you're doing? So without the images, so think of the header of your website. If you were to block everything else off, would people already have an idea of what you're doing and why you're doing it in your logo? Because this is something that you can add to your invoicing, you can add to your presentational materials, you can add to a sticker or something when you're shipping out your things. A tagline can be very powerful. I want you to really think about it this week. What words say who you are? Not just an introductional layer, but a differential layer. What makes you different from the other fine artist or the other figurative artist or the other sculptor? What makes you you? What word can you use to communicate that? So you can use that in your statement, your letterhead, your branding. It's those few words so that people start recognizing you. We have big businesses that have their tagline from just do it, or even in campaigns, make America great again. That was the tagline of the Trump administration. Every administration has a different tagline that they repeat again and again and again. Can you find a tagline that says who you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it, in a few words that you can add to your logo or on your website, your social channels, something that you repeat, have printed on your apron, have, excuse me, in the corner of your studio that sort of comes back that you can take a photo of and put it on your social channels, because it's all about building that recognition. Here's some taglines that I found online. Jan McCarthy, she says she's not only an artist, but she's a creative life connoisseur. So that is her tagline. It's underneath her name, that she's an artist and she's a creative life connoisseur. And if you read further, she also has a slogan. So you have your tagline, which are words underneath that really are short and sweet. It's usually 3 to 5 words that encapsulate the core of your business. And then you have a slogan, which expounds a little bit more. And she says, I make and sell art, foster and teach and mentor other creative dreams, and help you live a creative life. And that's when you start understanding that she's a connoisseur in life. So she helps people live their creative best. So she's an artist, she makes and sells art, but she also helps other people live their creative best. So she's a life artist connoisseur, and she does it through workshops, through retreats, through all kinds of activities. So that's her slogan. So she has a tagline and a slogan. Then we have Victoria Johnson. She has her as a tagline, create, explore. So that's part of her logo. She's added that tagline. And she's more in the educational space. She's also an artist, but she helps artists and designers create commercial artwork that gets noticed by art directors. So very specific to her core business. So she helps artists in their creative development so that they can get noticed. So she has embraced the create and explore. So it's more finding your creative style. And then we have Rachel Ryan, designer and artist from New York. And she has a tagline she's used. Actually, her URL is rachelryanstudio.co. And she's added that as a tagline, more as an aesthetic, more of a graphic statement than actually, because that could mean anything. But if you go to her website and then you look, I create art that wakes up to the splendor of connecting with nature, your people, and your spirit. So that she's got as a slogan. But there's a coherency in the tagline and in the slogan. It's not necessary. It's very difficult to find artists that use taglines, but that's my challenge to you, because as you are looking into who you are as an artist, and that's where finding the right words really come in. I mean, you can take a photo of the things that you're doing, but using words, that takes a little bit more of an effort, because it asks for self-reflection. It asks you to make choices. You really need to edit. You really need to get to the core. And if you're not quite sure why you're doing things and what you're really doing, it's difficult, because then it's also broad. As you develop, become, move from being a starter to emerging to experienced artist, you're going to get more clear in your communication. And then from there, words will emerge that sort of get to cause. But that core takes that process of self-reflection, getting really clear, making decisions. So that's my challenge to you. Can you come up with a tagline? And I've started with the most difficult first, because you have to really get to the core. You can't waffle, you can't expound and try and plaster things. You need to get to the core, and that's really my challenge to you. Have a look at your art, put it down, write down words. What words come up? Ask people for their input. Why have maybe people collected or bought your art? And then take notes and listen to what people are saying. An exercise for you to do, you'll get the notes and you can watch the replay, is to write down my art is about on a piece of paper, and then write a sentence. What is your art about? And you can just make a full sentence to write that down. You're going to have a look at that sentence, and then you're just going to use 5 words. So my art is about, and then only 5 words. What words can you add to really get to the core? And you're going to break it down to get to that core of what your art is about. Of course, the next is 4 words, 3, 2, and 1. Can you find out my art is about, and then what is the core of your art? Now, this is not about your business so much, because that could be about many things, especially if you're teaching and you're doing different themes, collaborations, or working in different areas. But this specifically is for your art. Go through this exercise, get words, and then edit down so you can get to the core. This is not an easy exercise, but very good practice. As you're working, just take notes of words, what people are saying. Whether you're using a tagline or a slogan, make sure your words are intentional. So it's not just something that you're writing down, because those words, whether you're applying for a grant, you're applying for some kind of residency somewhere, in an email that you need to write, the words need to be intentional. Also with your descriptions, how are you describing an art piece? What title are you using? How are you describing yourself on your website? You need to be carefully crafted, whether you use a tagline or a slogan. Needs to add to the clarity of your message, make it dynamic, so it's not like boring, not just like a fine artist. That could mean anything. Add an emotive word, something that makes you you. What word can you find that makes you you? And then focus on what's important. So that's with your descriptions, whether that's social or on your website. Keep it short, to the point, and make it intentional. The second that we're going to be looking at, where words really matter, is your social profiles. Get quite a few questions about this, and I see very good social profiles, and I see really social profiles where there's so much room for improvement, and you only have a few words. That's the thing with social media. They do limit, whether you're writing a tweet or you putting your social profile, there are only so many characters that you're allowed to use. So for Instagram, for example, you have 150 characters to say who you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it, so that people are like drawn to your profile and they want to start following you. Facebook, it's larger, it's more the about section, it's 255, Twitter 160, and Pinterest 160 as well. What 160 characters, these are including dots, spaces, and emojis, can you use to describe who you are? So that's why that core message is so important, because what is it that you want to say? What is it important that people know about you, so that they start engaging with your art, with your profile, with your Insta feed, and then eventually, if that is one of your goals, to buy and purchase your art. So you're creating that relationship and trust with people that are engaging with your profiles. So you only have a few characters to do that in, so you have to make them count. And is it carrying the load? Is it saying what you want it to say? Just a quick anatomy of a social profile, focusing here on Insta, because this is something, of course, a social channel that's well used and very effective for artists to use. And we start off with your handle. This is a unique handle. It's something that you can communicate. You can make it unique. Your name. Add, so this is Rachel Moore, artist, so that's clear. It doesn't say if she's a fine artist, graphic artist, or a sculptor, but this is the handle, and you can use it at Rachel Moore artist, at Sonia Small here. That's my handle that you can use in your publications. You can use in your communication. When you're writing your post, that people can get to your social platform. In this instance, Instagram. Then we have your profile image, then we have your profile name. So this could be your name or whatever you are calling your art business. And then, of course, the description. That's where the characters come in. With the profile, you can use one URL. So think about, a lot of people use a link tree, which means just think of a tree. It's one platform that you can take people to, that actually has different sections of your business. So if you're doing diverse things, then you can take them to a special page that you then navigate them. It's like, I want them to go to a sales page, or I want them to go to a promotional page, or to my workshop page, whatever I'm doing. I've got a new book or ebook or free resource. That's where you want people to take. You can use a link, add a link. So make this real estate, as I call it, count, because where you're going to take people, and to make sure that that's where, it's a specific page on your website that you want to highlight. Of course, you can change this. It's all dynamic. You can change your profile every week if you want, every day if you want. but make sure that it counts. In your profile, make sure you add your introduction layer. Who are you your name? You're a person, you're not a business or a product, you're a person. What is it that you're doing? What's different about what you're doing than other people are doing? So it's a different technique, certain kind of focus. Are you specific in certain mediums or different colors, or what is your differential layer? And then why are you doing it? Good to add that amplifying layer. Why are you doing it? What motivates you? People that resonates with people is what motivates you. What motivates you to make your art? If you can find a few words to describe your why and add that to your profile, that really will speak to the emotional side of people. So it's not just a bunch of facts, but you are appealing to emotion. And that's what creativity is about. You are speaking to emotions, not so much the rational, emotional. What words can you find to communicate that? And then make your description also clear. What is the intention? If you have a web shop, if you have shop on your website or people can purchase, make sure it's clear that what is the action? What action do you want people to take? And then, of course, then you have your highlight reels here that you can use in your space. So have a look at your social profile. Do you have all three layers? Do you have your foundational layer that's introducing you to your potential followers? Why should they be following you? You're a person, so write down that the foundational layer. Then you have a differential layer, what makes you different from the other artists, and what is your amplified layer? That's usually the why. What motivates you? What drives you to do what you're doing? And there's a small example here at the bottom that you can go back and have a look at. So time to get those social profiles clear and get the communication out there. Why should people be following you? I have some examples of different kinds of strategies. You can just add your website. If that's very intentional, then make that work. And there's all different shapes and sizes. You can really focus. Maybe you're a local artist. So these are artists that really have focused on geographics. So very specific from a certain area, geographical area. And they really are intentionally using their location. So they are local artists. Then we have artists that just use their website. So if that's intentional, that's fine. You have to make it work. That you are an American artist, South African artist, UK fine artist, portrait artist, contemporary landscape artist, whatever introduction and the layers that you're adding, introduction and making yourself diverse. So what makes you unique? If you can put that in a few words, and then just add your URL and let your art, if you're posting correctly, write images that people see, okay, this is what it's about. And they're following you because you're a fine artist, or that contemporary artist. Then that's fine, but make it intentional. What are you adding to your profile? And then these are artists that have sort of found the middle way, that are adding who they are, what they're doing, and why they're doing it, and what is the expectancy. They can purchase. I offer workshops. I do sales. You can go to my web shop. You can use emojis so that people know and help them visually to go to to do certain actions. So have a look at your social profiles. Have also friends have a look at it, and and just see if it's the most effective. Can you make it more effective? Emails. I don't know if you are sending regular emails, if you've listened to my studies and my lessons and my courses, then I'm a big advocate for using emails to communicate. The chances are that people will read an email from you are far greater than if they're going to see a social post. You don't have any control over social posting. Those words can also just go into the big internet void. All that posting that you're doing on your, with your Instagram, Pinterest, all the descriptions that you're writing can just sort of float off. You don't have control because people will see it. The algorithms will show people to your work, but there's no guarantee that they're actually reading your things. But if you're using email and you're building an email list, you have far more control because you're sending it into an inbox. And when you're sending it to an inbox, people generally are a little bit more focused. They are intentionally opening an email and they're reading an email. And then you can communicate very specifically. And there's all kinds of email communication that you can use. And important, what words you're going to be using to communicate. The internet is a busy place. Social media is a busy place. You know, there's not that control when you're sending an email. You're cutting out the noise. You are showing a beautiful image of your work, those right, well-chosen words in an email to get people to where you want them to go. What is the intent of your email? And you are creating focus, you're drawing them in. And you can share, you know, there's all different kinds of emails that you can send. And it's important to ask yourself the question, why am I sending this email? What is the most important thing that I want to communicate? Who am I talking to? So always keep your audience in mind. You know, who is going to be reading this? Is it someone that doesn't know nothing about me? They've just put their name on an email list at an opening that you have in your guest book. So first introduction, is it an introduction email? Is it a sales email? Is it a information email? Is it a teaching email? Is it an inspiring email? Every email has a different focus. Not just writing and hoping that people are going to read. Very important to know why. And then what is it that you want to get out of the conversation? Do you want people to go to your website? Do you want people to see your latest works? Do you want people to join an event? Do you want people to join a workshop? Be very clear about what result you want out of this. If you're sending a pitch for a certain event or for a commission or for a grant, you want people to contact you, so have clear contact details. Different kinds of emails, information, you know, sending information about your latest work, or maybe your studio has moved, or you have new plans. It can be engagement, you know, you're asking questions, you want to get more information about who's following you. You can ask questions, do a quiz, you can do all kinds of fun things to engage with your audience. And be inspiring, sending your latest work, your inspiration, share that with your followers. It can be to promote and to build connections. So there's all kinds of reasons. And hopefully, if you've been following along on my studies, you have been sending emails. Not just once a year, but regular emails without, you know, I know that I understand that whole spammy feel. People think, oh, you know, don't want to send emails because I'm spamming or I'm getting into people's space, or, you know, I'm really intruding. If people have joined and opted in to follow you, they are expecting to hear from you. They don't just fill in an opt-in form for the fun of things. You know, they expect it. And if you make it worth their while, make it worth their 5 minutes to open up, to read your email, it's a wonderful place to engage with people. And you really are building a community around your art. It's social media is very flighty, you know, and you know the algorithms change. You have absolutely no control. But when you have more, you have contact through email, you can really start building. And just did the interview now. This week was released from Rachel Tenelach, a Boise-based in Idaho, the US artist, and she says emails made a huge difference. I went to her opening 2 years ago, and it was packed. The whole room was packed. There were so many people standing there with their credit cards to swipe, to buy paintings, to buy all of her products. She really has found a way to diversify her art. And I was like, what is she doing? How is she getting this whole space packed? And it wasn't just packed with people that are, you know, hanging on to their drinks and, indulging in the catering. These are people that really were standing in line to talk to her, standing in line to pay, standing in line just to, you know, to see things, to see all her art on the walls. And she shares also in the interview, email made a huge difference. She's active in sending emails. She has opt-in forms on her website. She has opt-in form when she has an exhibition. She's actively building an email list. I really want to encourage you, start building a list, and not just list to look pretty on your MailChimp or an email service provider, but use that space to communicate and finding the right words to communicate. Just want to differentiate two kinds of messages, because there's all kinds of messages that you can send through your email. And the one is the informational email. And if you look at where do you get to the point, how do you build up an email? The email is built up with a subject line. Subject line, super important. What are you putting in the subject line so that it doesn't end up in the spam, and also that people are triggered to read further. So it's good to give that subject line some good thought. When you are sending an informational email, so it doesn't cost anyone anything, you're not selling anything, you can get to the point quickly. So you have an opening, you have a new blog coming out, or you have a podcast coming out. It's not costing anything, it's free of charge. You don't have to nurture a conversation to get to the point. You can say new blog, new podcast, new collection, come and see my latest exhibition. You can tell them right up front in the mail, this is what is happening. This is why I'm sending you this informational email. And then the layers in the email underneath that, you can expound. When, where, how, what inspired you, what can they expect? All that information goes underneath. When you're sending a sales email, it takes a little bit of a different approach. You have in mind that you want to send an email because you have a new set of prints ready for sale. And of course, depending on the price point, will determine on the words that you're using to tell people, you know, if you're selling something for $10 or for $1,000, that's a different kind of wording that you're going to be using. Because this whole process of when you're starting with your title, so the subject line, till when you come to the point to buy now, purchase now, you know, this is for sale, that goes through a whole different process. So you want to build up trust first. So you're using words that are you telling them that you were inspired, that you have something new, this you have started with a new series, and this is how you got your idea. This is maybe an anecdote or a story that what happened during the working process. You carefully construct your words, and that you now, you know, you've opened up a new shop, or you have a point of sale. You know, this is new, just framed your work with beautiful mahogany frames, or there's a special anti-glare glass and it's now available, and there's a photo available, and then you have your pricing. You can tell them, you know, you either hit your website or you can mention your pricing in an email. So that sales email, it's turned the other way around. You first have to use words to create trust, to build a bridge to people, so that as they read your email, they come to that point, and then they are ready to think about it. You know, they won't be very special if they at that moment pick up the credit card or write back, yes, I want that. Usually it takes a few emails, or it takes relationship, many months. People have to see you first live, or people, you know, have to engage with your art on many platforms, and then finally they've come to a point, okay, now I'm ready to invest in a piece. So that's all part of your communication channels, and getting those words right will make a huge difference, starting with your title, with your subject, and then how you're constructing your emails. And this is something we focus on in the course, the Working Artist course, because this is so important. How are you sending those emails, and how are you going to build up your word structures to find the right, because you're building little bridges, you're taking people on a journey. People start here and you want people there. How are you going to use words to bring people to that point that they think, yes, this is something that I would consider to make a purchase, or to join an event or a workshop. It's a system that you can use of setting up the email. This is an alumni of the Working Artist course. Her name is Mish. She's an urban artist turned artist and a graphic designer, and she will be one of the teachers of the Working Artist course starting in March. She's going to be sharing about her artist journey, and this is an email sequence that she wrote for an opening of a virtual exhibition. She took her art online and she used software to have this virtual exhibition. She didn't send one email, she sent a series of emails that are visually interesting adding different headings, that you are invited, where they're invited to, what can they expect, a video, photos. She had in the interview at the opening of her exhibition and went through a whole process through her email. So this was a series of emails. So the first was an invite, then a reminder. Tonight is the opening of the exhibition. It was a virtual exhibition, so people could be in their own spaces. And then the countdown an hour before, shortly we're going to be starting, join in. So email communication is not just one-off and just hoping that people are going to see. It's with any communication. People need to be reminded 8 to 10 times on different platforms, different ways, different wording to know about you. So hopefully this inspires you and is not going to overwhelm you too much. But you have to start thinking through your viewers, your followers, people that are consuming information in busy spaces. Inboxes are also busy. Social media is busy. The web is busy. What do they need to know and understand to really get an idea of what you're doing and what action do they need to take? And finding the right words are super important. Are there questions before we move on to pitch? I know that's a lot of information, but getting that wording right is super important. And also, the results will show. If you're finding it's not really resonating, the things that you're doing with your audience, then have a look at what you're communicating. What words are you using? Maybe you need to change your subject line or the length of your email, or how are you? And that's nice if you're building an email list. You can look at your statistics. You can see exactly how many people are opening the email, who's clicking on the links in your email. Those statistics will tell you whether something's working or not. Look at what posts are working for you. What posts are effective? Is the image or the words helping? So really have a good look at your communication. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions regarding emails, regarding, I don't know if you are building, just give me a yes if you are sending regular emails, and a no if you're not sending regular emails, and 1, 2 if you're wanting to send those emails. Let me know if this is something that you aspire to do or are doing. Jane says, for me, it really helps to have that internal conversation with myself and start talking to an imaginary friend. Let's open that. It then comes from the heart. Good tip, Jane. Thanks for sharing that. Definitely just write like you're talking and like you're talking to a real person. And Maja, Jan, and Anya says no. They say no, but Anya says she wants to, and Maja says where to start. And Imka says no, yes, but not sending very often. Let me know. Well, let's just start with Maja says where to start. If you're going to start building your email address list, it's of course good to have a base where people can subscribe. So now, especially because we've gone online, we don't have that many offline events where you can have a guest book or really ask people to join a list, because that could be a given. I have a card that I put out at in-person events when we were going in person that people will fill out their name and their email address, and then they consented that they are joining my list. And this is something that I have to keep for the commission, the privacy commission, that if they ever look at my email address list, I can say, look, these people have given me permission. That's if you're working in an offline space. So make a card that people can fill out and make sure that you have that permission that they can join your list. Especially the European Union is very sticky about that, and I'm grateful for that. So we're not spamming and big concerns of bothering people with the spammy emails. Then if you have your website, that's the main area that you're going to be collecting those emails. So you're going to build an opt-in form on your website. So you're going to ask people, join the journey, the conversation, follow along. I'll keep you posted. Don't just call it join my newsletter, because that's a little bit, it's boring. And people, what can I expect from a newsletter? But make it more exciting. Find the right words. Have a look at other artists' websites. How do they communicate to the people? Leave their name and their email, and that you've figured that out with the GDPR. And there's some good blogs out there, and there's good resources, like go to the MailChimp.com website. That's an email service provider. That's where you can collect emails and put it in a safe place and have templates. They have good tutorials that you can have a look and see. Don't make it too complicated. The idea is to get the name and the email and then put it into some kind of archive, so that you not just write them on paper, you have them in a digital system that you can send those people your regular content. And start with once a month. And that's with Imke, try and make a brainstorm about what can you be communicating. And that's good if you're working already in your 4 quarters, like I teach my students, not just working one painting to painting or an art piece to an art piece. You have your year ahead of you already, so that when it's Valentine's Day on the 14th, it's going to be the summer vacation. This is what's happening. That this is a special holiday, or that's when my collection's coming out. You can really anticipate and start collecting words. Okay, make a rough draft in a Google Doc and say, okay, I'm going to send 12 emails this year. 12. That should be doable. You can spend a weekend writing 12 emails and have them all prepared for the year. Just have to make little tweaks. But it's a frame of mind. You're going to be sending those 12 emails once a month, at least. And then, like the first Monday of every month, I'm going to send that email. And then think of what's your goal, who you're writing to, and what you want them to do. What action do you want them to take? Are you having a conversation? Do you want them to go to a link? Do you want them to go to your website, social channels, follow you on social media? Make that clear. So that's my challenge for you, at least once a month. Start writing down 12 emails, 2021. And what are these emails going to contain? Don't have to be long. The shorter and sweeter, the better, but people are hearing about you. You'll jump to mind when they think about an artist. Susanna says, do you have a good idea for freebies? Yes, I have a whole list. There's a new resource on my website. If you go to my homepage, you'll see how it's called the Artist Survival Guide, and in there I have a whole list of things that you could send people, from thumbnail screenshots of your art that people can use as desktop art, or all kinds of things that don't have to cost you a lot of time and money. And you can offer them. I mentioned that in the previous session. Rachel, she's a designer from New York, and she's gone through a few virtual museums where art is relevant in New York. Of course, there's only one New York, but maybe in your village or your town or your city or your country, there's certain interesting art moments or interaction. People can interact with art, and you make like a PDF of where people can find inspiration in your village or your city, and you send them that. So do a brainstorm, go to that resource and have a look. There's a whole list that you can go through. Susanna says, I have a list already, but would like to get more subscribers for the artworks. Okay, so what can you do, Susanna, to get more interest into your artwork? You have to find out, what is it that your audience wants to hear? You're writing to real people. Why are they following you? Why are they on your list? What do they, what inspires them? What would be interesting for them? Do they want to know more about you as the artist? How does an artist work? How does an artist think? Where do you get your inspiration from? Or more about the art itself? How do you frame art? How do you light out art? How do you hang art in a space? How can you, care for art? How is art shipped? How, just all those thoughts that maybe are coming up into your audience's mind, you can write about that and share that information. Put you there as the expert. It shows your validity, your validation as a person, and that you know what you're talking about, and it'll really build relationship with your audience. So there really is, there's so many things that you can talk about. Hi, Anita. Heidi, hello. So hopefully, something that we can talk about more in this group too, emails. Send out that regular email so that you can start building a community, not just selling art, all over the place. Build a community around your art. And there's all kinds of ways that you can build that out. Pitching. How are you going to pitch if someone, so this is something that's verbal, spoken words. If someone meets you at a cocktail party, or you are, even if you're in the supermarket, or you're waiting for your kids after school, when someone asks you, what do you do? Are you at a loss for words? Do you know what to say? Pitching, we all know the elevator pitch. You have those few seconds to, in a few words, talk about yourself. This is something you can learn, and it might feel really uncomfortable for you to start off with, but finding those spoken words are super important. And you are a working artist. Most of you are doing this for a living. This is part of your job. Don't shy away from using your voice. You have a powerful voice. This art comes from you. You are passionate. You made it. It comes from you. Only, I've been to so many openings that I don't even see the artist. I see the artist hiding behind the plants somewhere, not wanting to say anything. No, I don't want to say anything. My art must speak for itself. And then they get someone's grandmother's grandmother to talk about it, or some person that people can't relate to do the opening, and they say wonderful things about the artist, but you don't see the artist. People want to see you. People want to hear from you. It doesn't mean that you have to have this, Oscar-worthy speech. Practice to find words to talk about a certain collection, talk about the theme that you have been working on for maybe a few months, and now you have an opening, whether that's on video that you're doing or in person at an event. You can practice. When you practice, you get confidence. When you get confident, you start talking with more conviction, and then people will start listening. Find a way that's authentic to you. This is an exercise that I want you to go through, to write down on paper, my name is, if all is well, you know what that is. I work in what medium, what kind of genre or medium, or what's your art about? Go back to the first exercise. My work is inspired by. What inspires you? Why are you making your art? At present, I'm working on. People want to know, don't want to know what you worked on in the past. What are you working on now? What's inspiring you? What makes you excited now? And why you're working on this theme or series? My studio is based, and you can tell them where you're working, or your art is found. Where can people find your art? And I'm not saying that you need to be a walking advertising reel, that wherever you go, just spiel this. But it's something that you can become aware of, that you have those few moments that you can share about yourself. You never know where that will bring you. Those moments can be super pivotal for you and for your business. And the more prepared you are, the more confident you'll feel. So go through this exercise to practice your pitching. And just to help you along, I have prepared it like an artist interview. That's maybe someone can do it, your son or daughter could do it with you, or a spouse or a friend, and prepare answers to these questions. So it's not just, I'm a fine artist, or I'm a contemporary figurative artist. Find stories, find words, like, when did you first realize that you wanted to be an artist? What you love about being an artist, what you hate about being an artist. And if someone were to experience your art, what do you want them to walk away with? How do you want them to feel? What do you want them to experience? Why were you drawn to a certain medium? So think through, use these as prompts, and you can do it verbally or write them down for yourself. Practice to get words for your art and your art business. Finally, the fifth part where words are important is blogging. So besides that email that you're sending, a blog can be super important when it comes to your visibility and sharing content. So this all has to do with your marketing strategy. So you can use a blog to add words to your website. We looked at the websites, effective websites session that I did a few weeks ago. We talked about this, how important it is to, of course, become visible, to get organic traffic to your website. And your blog is important because there's words. The robots, the bots that are sort of scanning Google, the big search engine, they are not searching for images. They can't read images yet. It's the words that you put on your website that makes such a difference, because that's what they're reading. So the more words you can add to your website, that, not in your homepage, but put it in a separate place in your blog, that really will help your visibility online. So if you just have a website with only images with few words, it's going to be very difficult to categorize you in the algorithm. So it's a little bit of a technical story, but blogging is a wonderful way to engage with your audience. You can give them background information. You can give them up to par with what you're doing, your inspiration. And the words that you're intentionally using in those blogs will help the search engine categorize you. And the more you are coherent in the things that you're saying, so that you're using fine artists in your, say you are a fine artist, you're a caustic artist, or you are a sculptor that specializes in marble installations for botanical gardens. If you keep using those words in your titles and in your subtitles in your blogs, it'll give Google an idea of who you are, and it'll connect with you with people that are looking for certain genres. So blogging, really can recommend, whether that's, also 12 a year, once a month, put something on your website. You can use it again in your emails. I have a new blog coming out. Have a look on my website. You're inviting people over to your website where you can share more about a certain piece or a certain collection, or then you can do your sales pitch. So a blog is a written piece of content with or without images that can be published on your website or a certain blog page. Think of a WordPress site to inform, entertain, inspire, promote your art and your art business. So just, some people use social media also in the Insta descriptions as a mini blog, or on your Facebook as a mini blog. You can make it very intentional and use an email to get people to your website. That's where you can have that conversation using your blog. And a lot of people they say, when I coach them, what do I write about? No one's really waiting, for what I have to say. Really have to deal with that and start turning the passion that you use to make your paintings, to draw, to mix your colors, to make your artwork. Find ways to translate that into words. Because people they need that inspiration. They're looking for that connection with you as an artist, and you continue looking for inspiration. You can add images and then add some text to enhance what you're trying to say. And then just quick in closing, how you can set up your blog. That you start with your title here. It's super important. Again, the title is going to get people to read it or not to read it. Then you have an opening of what can people expect in this blog post. So sort of a summary of what people can expect. Then you have your body text, you have an image, then you have in closing. So how are you going to close off a blog post? There's a possibility that people can comment in some blog feeds. You have comments and people can share the blog. So that's sort of an anatomy of a blog post. The most important thing is the title. And the why is it that you're writing your blog? And then do a brain dump, write down all kinds of subjects that you could be talking about, and how does that relate to your art? That things that get you excited, whether it's a book you read or a movie that you saw, something that inspired you to make a certain art piece, something that you learned. Maybe you are going to highlight someone else's art. There's so many different ways that you can approach blogging. And use those words because those words create a narrative. And storytelling is just part of our culture. That's how we relate. That's how we learn. That's how, we remember things, is through stories. And, you can all remember at school, that's how we learned how to write. That's how we learned how to speak, is through storytelling. And using stories on your About Me page or in an email, or to explain, a certain part of your creative process, can be so effective. That's what people remember, are those stories. Words create a narrative. Just some tips. Be concrete. I have a little bit of an example after this that you can have a look at, but make it concrete. Don't you think, I'm writing about art, it needs to be airy fairy, needs to be really artistic language. Write like you talk, and use active voice. People don't want to, being in passive voice is something that's been or past, but you want to, you are working on something now, you are inspired by something today. It's big, using active voice, not passive voice. And then using strong verbs, emotional language. What are emotional words as opposed to nouns that will enhance your message? Then don't show, but tell. So this is a painting. No, this is on the wall is a painting. It's framed in this and this wood. I'm telling, not just showing something. I'm an artist. Now, what kind of artist you? Tell me more about you. And then get to the point. No waffling. How many words do you need to explain something so that people will understand what you're doing, who you are, and why you're doing it? So, people have a lot to do. Get to the point. And then check your grammar and your spelling. And there's apps that you can use, like Grammarly. You can put your text in there, and you can see that everything is correct. Or, as I said, you can contact a content writer, someone that is good with words, to read it out loud. Once you read it out loud, you hear it, and then you can see, does it flow? Is it making sense? Whether it's your blog or your email or whatever content you're writing. One of my favorite stories as a child was the 3 little pigs that had to make a house. The first used straw, the other used sticks, and the third clever one used bricks. And there was that big angry wolf chasing those pigs, blowing their house over. And just to illustrate little tips of using words as narratives, go through this list about, there's that abstract, the 3 little pigs built a house with a variety of construction materials. You could even, use that for your art. I'm an artist, I use a variety of materials. No, that's not concrete. You use certain kind of paint, certain kind of medium, certain kind of brush stroke, certain kind of color. That is concrete. And that's the same with being passive and active voice, using verbs, etc. So go through the list, and just to inspire you, it's like just to remind and refresh you, what does that mean to use those different narrative terms. In closing, just want to say that there is my website that's available for you to have a look at, with all the podcasts. There's a podcast all about writing an artist statement, about using social media. There's this new resource out, the Artist Survival Guide, that really helps also with how can you start connecting with your art audience and your art collectors in a whole new way. So go to my website, soniasmallhair.com. It's there for you to use, and the resources and freebies and all available. You can join my email list. I try and send, regular emails, and just to help you, inspire you, and give you, just resources so that you can grow in your art and your art business. I have the podcast, I have the live session, and then coaching and courses, and the community, which you're already a part of. So these are the different sections that you can have a look at. Exciting coming up is the course, the Working Artist course. Coming up in the 1st of March, we're starting. Enrollment opens the 15th of February. It really is a comprehensive course of 12 weeks to take artists on that journey from becoming, setting up business structures around their creativity. So you're not just making your art and hoping that it's going to be selling, you're going to start setting up very solid structures. And that's a whole framework that I take the students through. It starts off with the first module, who are you as an artist? Second, why are you making your art? Really getting words to find out. There's a whole module, that's module 6. How do you write about your art? And we go in depth, breaking it down. How can you write those emails? How do you write a pitch email? How do you write if you want to have a commission or you want to get funding or talk with journalists? How do you set up those emails? So that's a whole section, this module 6, all about writing, all about marketing. There's a whole section all about marketing. How do you set up a marketing strategy? So it's very intentional. You're not just doing something hoping that people are going to find you online. There's a strategy, and there's all different kinds of strategy depending on your art, on your personality, on what you love to do. So that's very specific. How to use photos, using your DIY in your photography, or whether you're going to use a professional photographer. What do you need to think of when you're making photos of your art and communicating it online or offline? And then your artist website. What is an effective artist website? Breaking that down. And using your social media, setting up a social media strategy so that you're posting regularly, posting intentionally, and really building a community around your art. And then module 10 is all about making your art work for you. So how do you approach a gallery? How do you write and get commissions? What are you actively doing to build your art business? So it's bringing actually all these modules together in the final module. It's 12 weeks. There's 2 implementation weeks in between. Each week there's live sessions like this with guest teachers. I'm very excited to announce that I have an array of teachers that are going to be joining the Working Artist for this year. I only do it once a year, 2021. Marijke Williams, she's an award-winning photographer from South Africa, and she's going to be doing a class all about photos. What can you think of? Tips, very practical, to use and make your Insta feeds beautiful, and how can you DIY and use, work with photographers. And then Esther McLeod, she's an illustrator, artist, teacher. She's amazing Insta presence as well, very active online. How she built her community, what is she doing as an artist to use that online space? She'll be sharing about that. And then David van der Linde, which is a Dutch gallerist, really a lot of insight. He's an artist himself, but also very passionate about his gallery in the south of the Netherlands. What do you have to think of when working with a gallery? He's going to be doing a live session. You can ask all kinds of questions to a gallerist and get informed and really understand that world behind the gallery door, and how do you send them emails, and how do you communicate, bring your portfolio, how can you get gallery representation. And then Mitty Renoy, a Dutch fine artist, a master artist, will be sharing about life as being a working artist, what you need to think of, how she'll go through some practical things, how you can build up your art career. And then Meredith Warren, she's a watercolorist from Boise, Idaho, and she really talks about the artist's heart and how you can create from a place of authenticity. So she'll be sharing about that. And then Mish, she's an alumni of the 2021 edition of the Working Artist. She's going to be sharing about, she's a graphic designer, but also a working artist. Some of her emails already showed in this session. She's going to be sharing about the artist's website, communication, about building a strong online presence. So I'm really excited about the guest teachers for 2021. Enrollment opens on the 15th of February. So in a few weeks, the day after Valentine's Day. But because you're part of my community, you are welcome to join in. Enrollment is open for you. You have our early bird discount. So if you're wanting to, that this is something for you, you're ready to take next steps, you're wanting to really get clear in your communication to promote and sell your art, I want to really encourage you to join in the course. It's an investment, but with this discount, you get €100 off, which is a good discount. And because you are part of my community, you can use this discount code and use this URL, which will bring you to a special page. You won't find it on my website. It really is for the inner crowd. That's you, because I want you to be able to take those steps. But that's before February 15th, you can get that discount. After that, it's the regular price. So have a look on the website, the Working Artist websites, and go back and look at this URL. You'll see what you'll be getting. So you're welcome to join the course. It really is a good investment to take you further to build your art and your art business. Guys, thank you so much for joining the session. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you again next time for another session. In the Facebook community, if you have any questions, just drop them in the comment area, and then we'll stay connected that way. Okie dokie. See you again soon. Bye-bye.